Hey everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations. So this video, I'm going to be continuing on this little series that I'm doing on Pluto entering Aquarius. And what I want to be focusing here today with you is how do we align with the Pluto in Aquarius signature? And I'm going to be specifically focusing on things like why does Aquarius associate with astrology? What's the types of ways that we are going to be able to respond to this energy? And showing you the potential that we can access when we navigate through Pluto and Aquarius. So this video is going to be helpful in many ways because I want to really create a very strong understanding of the types of changes that we can expect to see with Pluto entering Aquarius. Okay. Now, part of this video includes talking about the significant change that we're about to experience. And I really want to put that out there as like, hey, we are going to go through a massive background frequency change. Things are going to look differently. And part of that process is preparing ourselves for that. Okay. So here's the sort of slide that I've put together for us, kind of exploring and breaking down this core theme that I feel is important to take seriously, to consider, to think about, to lean into, that we are no longer living in times of Pluto and Capricorn yet. We're moving out of this phase and into something completely new. So some guiding thoughts on Pluto through Aquarius. Okay. So perception and maps of meaning. All right. And what I mean by this over here is that when we try to make sense of the world, we need a cosmology. We need a framework, as it were. And when that framework is disturbed or it comes into question, it can be highly uncomfortable for our psyche, for our sort of cognition, right? We would say things like, this is cognitive dissonance, or when something like COVID comes along, it's very difficult for us to try to map reality where everybody's living in a world that's very foreign or different. I'd even go as far as to say, in fact, because Jupiter and Saturn were through Aquarius at the time when we had this peak experience, look how we processed that world, right? Look look what did it feel like to you when you traversed the territory of Jupiter and Saturn through Aquarius? Now we're getting Pluto through Aquarius, right? So we need to begin to prepare and orientate that the meaning and the map that we use to find ourselves as human beings in, like how do we find ourselves in this existence? Who are we? What are we supposed to be doing? All these types of deeply philosophical questions, but also in the sense of what does it mean to be human? Where do I belong? And what's the perception I need? So when Aquarius energy comes in, it's quantum. So it's immediately going to stretch and open up fields of perception, okay? And new fields of perception, new understandings, new breakthroughs, new experiences. And part of that means you also becoming consciously aware of parts of yourself that may have not been as fully comprehensible or understandable, okay? Other ways that this multidimensional reality will begin to become more present with us is through things like the enhancement of technology, including the drive towards using technology in ways that may not necessarily be fruitful to us. So tech will offer completely new dimensions of reality, and that will absolutely accelerate the structural change that will take place in our world. So as I said, institutions will become different. There will be a rapid change with that. And a lot of old forms, like the way that we've done banking, the way that we understand ourselves in terms of our roles, like what are the roles that I'm supposed to play? What am I supposed to be? A lot of these things will become outdated. These models of reality will become outdated. And what will emerge out of that is our emotional security and attachment to these sort of structures that once held a place for us to find meaning in. Human beings deeply need meaning. Without meaning, there is this strong sense of lostness, this disorientation, this isolation, this loneliness, this what is it all for? And that is dangerous because it leads people to find meaning in places that are not necessarily emotionally okay and healthy. And that leads to all sorts of dangerous things like, fanatical behavior. So people need to have meaning. And when structural change takes place, and Pluto accelerates this in Aquarius, we'll have to find out, we'll have to address our emotional attachments to this. So emotional instability, disorder, rupture, as I talked about in video 1, these are elements of this process that you will see in the world. The way that you counteract this, the way that you kind of prepare and you begin to shift your attention to what to concentrate on, what to focus on, what to pay attention to, is self-understanding. This is a way of re-stabilizing your sense of self, like your orientation. Where am I? Where do I belong? What am I doing? Self-understanding. This is a huge piece because it leads you to understand your individuation process. And it also allows you to, as I've written over there, like fear unconscious drives. So let me break that down. Aquarius is an individuating energy. So what that means is it breaks apart collective cohesion and it brings you into more individual parts. So if you understand yourself and you understand how to carry yourself, you understand how to navigate yourself, to be able to make decisions, be able to have agency, and you also understand your deeper subconscious drivers, you're more capable of navigating disorientation. You're less likely to find meaning in idealistic and ideological factions, which is very much an Aquarius thing, because you will see them for what they are. You'll see through the distortion. You'll see through this disorientation. You'll see through the trauma that is held within those more primal factions, groups that will form because there is an absence of meaning. So group identity becomes more prevalent during this time. So individuation leads you to find resonance with places and communities that have more cleaner energy, as it were, right? And that affords greater survivability during these times because there will be a need to find community that resonates, because when you're in resonance with community spaces, you're more likely to find safety. You're more likely to experience safety and survivability. This is important. And that's why you will see in where the maps of meaning of the way that we found our world, like, okay, this is the coordinates. This is how I navigate myself in the world according to my institutions, according to my parents, according to the values of the world. When all of that changes, people go, well, now what? And that's why you will see the emergence of systems like astrology, human design, I Ching, gene keys, psychotherapy, etc. They'll become more popular because it leads people to be able to explore individuality by objectifying their own experiences and their own understandings. So an example that I can give you is like in human design, if you know that you have a solar plexus that's defined, then when you're needing to make decisions about things, it's more empowering to say, okay, well, hold on, I need a little bit of time to kind of reflect or wait for clarity. Whereas if you don't know that and you need to make a decision and you've got a defined solar plexus, and you're like, oh, I've got to make a decision, I've got to make a decision. You don't have any clarity, it leads to chaos. So that's an example of how self-understanding gives you and affords you better choice making. And this is something that will be an essential part of this Pluto in Aquarius energy. Like, as I said, even astrology, like for me as an example, right? I know that my North Node's in the 5th house. I know that it's important for me to work on that karmic signature. And let's say I'm in a situation and I can know that this is the reality, or this is the behavior, or this is the thing I'm needing to step into as a path of empowerment. Because Pluto in Aquarius will open up these fields of perception and give you the ability to know who you are. So things like mental health, for instance, will become more of an integrative process in our collective psyche because we'll value cleaner energy emotionally and psychologically. This is already becoming assimilated into the collective already. So it's good to be able to have a perception and a map of meaning as a way of navigating a world that will feel very foreign to you. That's the reason as to why both myself and Jen are offering the astrology school as well as the Aquarian life at the moment, because both of these two systems have been specifically designed to help you study your own astrology chart, as well as know what it's like to live in an Aquarius energy. So learning human design, learning, understanding your Saturn, so that you become more authoritative in your own way of being, as opposed to asking for people to do things for you, right? Saturn is very much about strengthening that. And to be able to know what the types of maps will look like, what the types of perceptions and the experiences will look like in an Aquarius way. So that's the reason why we're opening up registration for these courses at the moment. And I'll talk more about it at the end of the video. So who am I, right? Who am I is how you are going to carry yourself and navigate yourself in the future with Pluto in Aquarius. So when I talk about AI and artificial intelligence, with Uranus entering Uranus moving through Taurus at the moment, there is going to be a deep acceleration and a strong acceleration and movement towards adopting artificial intelligence, not only as a this makes sense approach, but also as a sort of way of helping us stay distant from the threat of our survival. So what I mean by this, right? Businesses, for instance, will use artificial intelligence to increase their productivity of things and decrease the amount of costs that are associated with human labor. And that will afford them more efficiency, right, Aquarius, but it will also create redundancy where human labor has been in place. Now think about what that means for you. Think about what that means for people that are now all of a sudden have meaning and purpose and drive and integration and have studied their whole lives for a specific thing. And now all of a sudden it's like it's changed. And you need time to adjust to the impact of sudden rapid redundancy. And automation will become more and more beneficial. And there are some amazing beneficial effects of automation. That's not to say it's negative. It's just that human beings and the role that we play and the meaning we give to our lives is going to be shifted to a different place. And well, who am I? What do I do with my time? What do I do with my life? All you need to do is just think back to when you were in the lockdown situation in COVID and think about how you handled so much time. You needed to put your attention in something. So as Pluto moves through Aquarius, it will bring forth these kind of questions of, well, what do I do with myself when the whole time I've just been spending my life doing this thing? So how do I cope with? How do I deal with? Right? This is the affordances that will change. Like, what do I do now with my time? Human value will change. Our skills, like once, as I said, like you'll have a certain skill of something, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, the role or the purpose or the chain of distribution has adjusted, and the role and the skill that I played no longer has that value anymore. How do I know myself? Who am I? So even economics is going to shift and change, because if you look at the Aquarius energy, you've got Leo, you've got Aquarius, you've got Taurus and Scorpio. This is the fixed cross. So economics and power and distribution and self-actualization and meaning, these are all the things that will come up through this process. So it leads us to this question: how do I know who I am if I've only followed and actualized myself in the old world? And that's where this process of reclaiming agency and healing suffering is a very important message in this video. Because when you've had agency, the capacity to act and move and take charge and do something and interact with something and feel empowered, when you're interacting with something that's been defined, this is who I am, and then all of a sudden it changes, now you're sitting in a situation of like, whoa, where am I? Where is my agency? And that leads to suffering, and that will accelerate all sorts of behavioral patterns that will not be beneficial to us as a human race, right? Lots of things will occur for that. So it's a kind of theme of be a part of something, right? I'm a part of a group that resonates with me, that I'm understanding myself, I'm experiencing a new perception, a new dimension of who I am. That's that sort of new fields opening. Or I can be possessed and disempowered. I can be possessed by unconscious drivers. I can be possessed by the lack of agency. I can be in a state of suffering. And so then it affords me to align with factions that represent empowerment, but are actually manifesting out of deep states of dysregulation, dissociation, as an example. So this is kind of the landscape of themes that will generally emerge out of this Pluto in Aquarius signature. Okay, now in the next video, what I'm going to be talking about more so is diving into what is the meaning of inner work and why it's important, and also addressing the types of worlds that we will naturally come into if there's a loss of agency or loss of suffering. So I'm going to break that down for us further so that we can really feel prepared for this transit. And also don't forget, in the description, by the way, is the link to the 2 courses, the Aquarian Life as well as the Evolutionary Astrology. You're going to be personally working with me over a period of some time, and I'm going to help you learn your chart, as well as with the Aquarian Life, help you integrate all of the themes that come along with living in an Aquarius signature, okay? And we've made this on a really, really, really high discount over here. So this is the time, if you've been wanting to learn these systems, this is the time for you to act, because not only are they on discount, but it also affords you the ability to prepare for Pluto entering Aquarius. All right, guys, thanks very much for listening. I will catch you in the next video, and take care.